Hi, I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads and Happy New Year! If all goes well, I will be sharing this video on the 1st of January. If all does not go well, then still Happy New Year! I'm wearing my new dress. I got this for Christmas. I feel very self-conscious. It feels very low. We're going with it. we're going with it. I am here to share my favourite books of 2024. I'm filming this a little bit early, but I don't think any of my current reads are going to make it onto my favourites list. I'm liking them, but I'm not loving them. So I think I'm in a safe place to do my favourites now. Of course, it would have been better if I'd filmed this earlier, but it's now 3 o'clock in the northeast of Scotland and there's no daylight. So I have like a little shadow because I have all of the lamps on. But oh well. So I have 13 favourite books to go through. Let's get started. All of these books kind of signify my favourite kind of genre / type of book that I have read in 2024 and books I kind of want to read more of in 2025. So I'm going to start with what I'm categorising as nostalgic reads. And I'm starting with a series. This is the Red Dwarf series, a quartet. Red Dwarf has been one of my favourite TV shows since I was a little kid, and I never read the books, and that brought me great shame. I should have read the books before now, but I never got to it. I've read them now. I loved this series. I highly recommend the series, and I highly recommend watching the TV series if you haven't read Red Dwarf. It is a British institution. It is a science fiction comedy drama show where we have a person who is the last human alive, the last human in existence. They are in space. They have some friends. They get up to no good. Capers ensue. And it's very, very enjoyable. And the books are just as enjoyable as the show. Next is Fade Into You by Katrina Child. This book is the reason why I don't wrap up my favourite books until kind of near the end of December. I have, in the last couple of years, I've had a late edition. And this year's late edition is Fade Into You. This, again, nostalgic. It takes place throughout the 90s and the 80s, and it surrounds friendship and music and love. And it was just a very emotional, very beautiful, very nostalgic read, and it was just such a good book. I felt it really captured what it was like to grow up in Scotland in the 90s and 80s, and I just really loved the relationship between the characters. The next category I'm going with is Sisterhood, whether be blood-related sisters or the sisters you choose for yourself. First up is The Bennett Women by Eden Appiah Kubi. This I got from the library. It was one of the first books I fell in love with in 2024. It is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, and it is fantastic. It is about the sisterhood of a sorority and just the relationships between the characters. Just gorgeous. I love this book and it is stuck with me as a favourite. My eye is twitching. That's not good. That's fun. It was heartwarming and just gorgeous, and there was a really nice like they had it coming moment, which I just loved. I also loved The Poisons We Drink by Bethany Baptiste. Again, I feel this was an earlier book. Again, pleasing paperback. I feel like I read this book so near the start of the year, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case. This is, I think the technical term for the genre is like urban fantasy. So it's our world, but there's fantasy elements. It's set in our world, but there are witches and there are people who don't have witchy powers. And of course, they're raging at the witches because they've got something that other people don't have. And there's a lot of prejudice towards the witches. This surrounds a young woman, this is our main character here. Her name is Venus, and her mother is taken out by an assassin. Venus is offered the chance to get revenge. And, you know, that's always lovely. Things then escalate pretty quickly. We have a gorgeous sisterly relationship in this book between Venus and Janice, who is a younger, sort of chaotic sibling. I was very fearful for her throughout the book. There are lots of other gorgeous sibling relationships throughout this book, and it just really got me in the feels. It is a chunkier book, but it doesn't feel like a chunky book. I could have easily read so much more of this book, and it was heartwarming and just beautifully written, and I had the best time with it. I'm going to include Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abike Ayamedi. I suppose the sisterhood is between a girl and a boy, but sisterhood doesn't just need to be girls. So I'm including this. This is set in a very prestigious boarding school, which sort of oozes quaint English charm. Shadi arrives at the school and very quickly her roommate goes missing, and it seems like nobody cares, but Shadi cares. And so she looks into her missing roommate, and secrets are revealed, mysteries are revealed, and there's like a deep dark underbelly that needs to be tackled. This was a very fast paced. I gasped many times. The book made me think of Jammy Dodgers, a biscuit I have not consumed in years, but after reading this book, I had a few Jammy Dodgers. Delicious. This was very just gorgeous dark academia, very likable yet flawed characters. I love a character with a flaw. My next category I think is best described as chaotic, but good for her. I have just realised this moment I forgot to bring one book from downstairs. Oh. Going upstairs again, the cat is asleep and he's been tormented by me tidying all day. So I will add a graphic. I have Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang. This is beauty horror is one of my favourite things to read. And this is about a woman who starts working for a very illustrious lifestyle brand. She's brought into this world and she learns a lot of secrets, and she is given some options, freely offered. And chaos ensues. Chaos ensues, and I can't tell you too much without giving away huge plot spoilers, which I don't want to do because this book is exquisite. I have another beauty horror as well, which is called Youth Juice by E.K. Sathyu. A woman becomes a marketing executive for a brand that in no way is Glossier. Absolutely no way. It's just very similar. And she has this cream, and this cream does these magical things to her, solves a lot of problems she's been having, and it feels like it's a magical elixir. But it can't really be a magical elixir. There has to be something more. And she finds out what it is. And that kind of opens her eyes to what is morally correct. Again, this book is absolutely chaotic. And it was like a mixture between The Devil Wears Prada and Death Becomes Her. A beautiful Venn diagram. This is in the middle. I Feed Her to the Beast and the Beast is Me by Jameson Shea was a gorgeous, good for her book. I was rooting for the main character, Laure, the entire time. This book takes place in Paris. It features ballet. Two things I love in a book or a film. Give me Paris, give me ballet. I am there. And Laure is hands down the best dancer at her academy. However, she is a black dancer. And people are not nice towards her, and she's not getting parts, and she genuinely deserves those parts. She's the best. She makes a deal with a demon, and I'm kind of like, I support this decision you have made. And again, things get chaotic, and I loved every minute of this book. Actually broke my heart this year finding out this was the start of a sequel, because I didn't know there was another book. And I was on a low spend year. I couldn't buy that book. And I spent the whole year being like, soon as my low spend year is over, I'm getting it. I did actually get a copy of it. So I can read the next book in January. I'm so beyond excited. Gorgeous characters, gorgeous setting. It really looks into toxic friendship and, like, again, morally, what's morally correct, and very, very endearing characters. And it's just a gorgeous, like, romp of a book. Absolutely loved it. I also loved all of the bits with the demons. Like, give me demons and catacombs. Yes, love it. I then have one of my new favorite authors. I have Perfume and Pain by Anna Dorn. Again, a gorgeous floppy paperback, which just adds to the enjoyable reading experience. This I read 3 books by this author this year. They were all chaotic. I loved them all. And I think I maybe loved this the most, but they were all 5 stars. So I have a physical copy of this. But this truly represents Vagabond and Exalted and Perfume and Pain. This book surrounds Astrid, who is a novelist who's kind of been cancelled. She is trying to sort of claw herself back out of a hole. Her book has been sold. TV rights to her book have been sold, and a sort of beloved influencer is adapting it and taking on the main role. We also have a little bit of a romance between Astrid and a younger woman in her writing group. And it is just a chaotic story about LA and these characters who you're like, you surely can't exist in real life, but you know, maybe they do. Absolutely fantastic. I genuinely had no idea where this book was going to go because it's so just bizarre. It didn't follow any of what felt like the natural rules of a storyline, but I loved it. And I loved the relationships, toxic as they may be, between all of the characters. And it was just such a quick, joyful chuckle of a book. I really like this author. She never fails to make me just laugh. Her books remind me of, like, watching shows like The Hills and The City, and characters feel like they don't seem real, like everything's just made up for entertainment, but that is what her characters feel like. It feels like they are living to entertain me, the reader, and you, the reader, if you want to read them too. And my last 2 favorite books are nonfiction. Nonfiction about nonfiction, but how can I even categorize that any narrower? Pink nonfiction. I have Glossy by Marissa Meltzer. This year, I learned that if if anybody else really loved watching The Hills, I do an annual rewatch of it. And this year, I learned that Emily, super intern Emily, was the creator of Glossier. I didn't know that. I did not know that at all. And this book is basically pretty much about that. Pretty much about how super intern Emily ended up creating Glossier. It is this book, and I say this as somebody who gave it 5 stars, and will be rereading it again over and over and over. This book felt like it could have just been an essay. It could have just been a blog post. It could have been a magazine article. It was just a little gossipy, just a gossipy book. Loved it. It was very light. Very, why does this exist? It exists for me. That's all I needed to know. I had a brilliant time with it. And my last favourite book, which I think maybe, it feels really harsh because I loved all of these books, but this might be my book of the year because it spoke to me as if it was written for me, and it wasn't written for me, but it felt it. Dead Weight by Emmeline Klein. I tabbed it. I never tab books. I sometimes do, but I rarely tab it. I tabbed every single section where I felt seen. And, like, I know. I loved it. This is about disordered eating. What a light subject. This book is focused kind of on disordered eating, but more on a who, what, where, when, and why. And I very much enjoyed that this book, people told their stories, and it was like they're reading it being like, there is no unique lived experience. We've all had overlaps, and that there was something so beautiful and healing about this book. I had disordered eating for 18 years between the ages of 12 and 30. So for me, this book was very like, hey, other people did that too. And it was just like a kind of hug. It was like a motivational talk from a drunk girl in a club toilet. The most motivational of the talks. For anybody who wants to read this book and is a little bit wary that it might be triggering, there are no numbers and values in this book. The author made their intent very clear in this book and said that it was not going to be a guide. So if that's maybe something that is helpful if you're thinking about reading it, I loved it. So those are my favourite books. I have recounted, it's actually 14. Oh wow. I just simply could not get down to a top 10 and I thought, well, why? Who says it has to be 10? It can be 14. Let's make it 14 or just as many as one feels they have. Please let me know what your favourite books were of the last year. And if you've read any of my favourites as well, that would be really fun to know. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!